Okay, good evening. We'll start the session now. I think by now you have reconciled with your celebrated or reconciled with your percentile and the results so far. So I don't want to congratulate you or console you for not getting all the calls you wanted. Eventually you will go to one institute, and if you're attending the session you obviously have at least one ray of hope alive. So we'll think about converting the best call that you have, right? So yes, now you are on the other side, and now you have to worry about situations like these where people, at least three people on the other side, are staring at you, and you're supposed to answer their questions, um, which can range from anything from an HR type question to really the so-called technical question. I'll come to the so-called technical questions. uh, so now you have to prepare for situations like these, and I think you don't have more than a month to do that. So I have to ensure that you can actually prevent all the ammunition coming to your side as safely as this one. We will This session I have divided it into two parts, and the first part is where you are right now, right? You must be struggling, you must have already started struggling, you have a lot of forms to fill, and you have to think about the questions to which you have to have answers. So so I'll first talk about the PI FAQs, which means the frequently asked questions in any personal interview. There's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be prepared for those, and how to tackle those is what I'll deal with. The second part is current affairs, the first steps in current affairs, and just I'll mostly be talking about the Indian economy, because that is, I think, the first aspect on which you should be thoroughly prepared. If you don't know much about the economy in which you will be finally seeking a job after 2 years and contributing handsomely, hopefully, it will be difficult for you to justify that in an interview. So I'll just briefly discuss something at the state of the Indian economy, and then I'll tell you about the plan that I think you should be following for your preparation, and then I'll leave it up to you on how to shape it going forward. So this is the objective, and why am I doing this? I've been doing this for a long time now, and I don't know how. Maybe President Trump, what he would have said is, I've helped billions and billions of people get absolutely fantastic results, and they totally loved me in the last many years. But the point is, I know this game, so I'll also caution you about things you shouldn't be doing. More important is also I think more important is what you shouldn't be doing in the interview, because I think everybody thinks they are giving unique answers, and those who are on the other side can safely tell you that what you are giving is what everybody else is uttering without thinking. So we'll get to those aspects there, right? So now about this whole this process, which is disgusting, which is what we don't like to go through, to sit on the other side and answer random questions to justify our existence. We just want to tell that, just take me because I cleared the exam, I have the percentile, but you can't tell that. So what is this interview? Interview is a sales process. There's absolutely no doubt that this is a sales process. You are selling yourself, and you have to keep this in mind. You are selling yourself there. So what product are you selling? You have to be absolutely thorough with that, right? So, and you have, how many minutes do you have? Basically, in an average interview you have just 10 minutes. In 10 minutes you have to impress the panel that you are a product they should buy. They should just keep you in their institute, right? So that for this to happen, the first exercise I usually recommend to anybody who approaches me for any help in interview or GD or anywhere where they have to explain their existence, is to get yourself a mini autobiography. Basically, write 1 or 2 pages about yourself, as much as you can, and then from there you highlight the parts which you think are important. And of course, not all parts are important. The ones which relate to your interview, and the fact that you have to go to a B school, they are more important than the other facts, right? So the first process right now, a day after CAT results, is now you have to know yourself. You haven't given it a thought so far. maybe you gave it a thought when you were appearing for your job interview in your engineering or whichever stream you were in. Now you have to know yourself, because if you know yourself, you know the kind of questions you can answer, the kind of questions you should just say sorry, I can't answer this, and move on, and the kind of questions where you can actually say things which can eliminate your chances completely during an interview. So you have to understand this thing. So I'll just be using a marketing tool here to an exercise which you can do, you should do. In marketing, you call this a positioning statement. Right, so this is how a typical positioning statement reads. For whom? For the target customer that needs or cares about what you, right? You are a solution that brings some benefit, unlike others who come with their own attributes. What is your unique differentiator, the unique selling point? That this is something which you should do for yourself. Now, so in the context of a B school interview, who is the target customer? We have to keep this in mind. We are talking about the professors of the very B school in which you want to spend the next 2 years, right? So we are talking about professors as our customer. You have to sell it to the professors. Now, who are these people? They have seen many like you. They are possibly bored of 95% of the answers which you think are outstanding, but they have heard it over and over again, year after year. So they actually wouldn't want you to run around the bush. Just you have to come to the point. Now, so these are your typical people there. If I may add, mostly frustrated. Not all, but mostly frustrated. Many of them wouldn't even be at places where they want to conduct the interview in, but they are there. So while you are very happy and eager, they are used to it. They are bored of it. Now, that is not the point, whether they are bored or entertained. The second part is more important. What do they care about? They care about getting good students. Why? Because they are professors. They want a certain standard to be maintained when it comes to their students, the selection of their students, and who can be good alumni in the future. Whatever be the institute for which they are interviewing you, it is absolutely paramount that you come across as a potentially good student, which would mean a sincere student. Now, how can they see you as a good student? It is absolutely not the case that because you have scored less in your graduation or 10th or 12th, you cannot prove yourself to be a potentially good B school student. But you have to be sincere. As a sincerity aspect, and I'll come to it. You have to come across as somebody who is sincere, somebody who most importantly values the opportunities they are given, and will not come and start complaining. See, once you are there in your B school, most likely you will be complaining about the B school in 3 months, like you have done in your engineering or other commerce, whichever stream you have been in. You'll start complaining in 3. Understand that you have to be somebody who shows the potential of utilizing these 2 years to the best of their ability, and doing well in academics. Obviously, that has to come out through your, that you have that drive that I will do well in the academics here, right? So what benefit do you bring? Now, that is their objective, but what benefit do you bring? Now, this is where you can talk about what you are bringing. If you are through and through topper, that is a good benefit that you are bringing. Because I have been sincere, I have always been good in my academics. You don't have to say it; they will understand that you will possibly be doing well here. Now, that is not the only aspect which can help you impress the people on the other side. You can also be an excellent employee, somebody who did not do really well in their academics, but have made up after that, which means that in your work profile you have been very sincere. Maybe you were not very good in computer science during engineering, but after that you have picked on your coding skills and you have made rapid progress in your job. That also shows that you are somebody who evolves, somebody who who's sincere and hardworking, right? So that unique benefit can be left to you. You can make it actually very specific, which means that you have worked on certain kind of platform, or you are from a sector which is unique, and therefore they should like to have you in the classroom, right? For example, let's say you have worked in the real estate sector. Now that is a fantastic story to talk about. Most likely, I'm just giving one example, but if you think your sector, the sector in which you have worked, will 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 be something which they would want to explore more, because they want a student from this background to be in their classroom, then you should highlight that more. Right. So now, unlike competitor, the last part is inevitable. You are being compared. They don't want you to compare. You don't like being compared, obviously, but you are being compared. That's just a psychological thing. Is just going to happen at that time, right? So you have to be very specific. We have to think about the points which you should speak. You have just 10 minutes. One thing is, you just have 10 minutes. You don't want to waste 5 or 6 minutes on discussing something which you also know is trivial, because the professors are bored. They are discussing it with you. You are the fifth person. They are bored of listening to similar stories, and you are dodging the ball, and they are happy letting you dodge the ball, but in the end maybe you get less than average marks. So you have to have those, let us say, at least 3-4 minutes where you talk about the benefit that you are bringing, and that, I think, is eminently possible in any interview process. It is not possible to not have that opportunity, but you have to be conscious of grabbing that opportunity there, right? So what is your unique differentiator? And I'll come to it later. What is your unique story that has to be told? Maybe you don't get a chance, then nothing can be done. If it's all current affairs from start to end, nothing can be done. Typically, I am Lucknow interviews. Last year they were of that nature. Not many of them, but at least a few of them. But if you get a chance, this is where you are going to excel. What benefit do you bring to the table? You are a product. Why should they buy you? Right. So, and everybody has a unique selling point, right? It's just there. What you think may not need to be highlighted may be your biggest point. You're actually your weakness, and you having worked on it can be a very good selling point. But you have to then you have to explore yourself, what it should be, right? So this is your positioning statement. I think this is a good place to begin your preparation from. And you have to get yourself, you have to answer this not that you have to write it in this manner or something like this, but you have to think about what story are you bringing to the table, what benefit are you bringing to the table. All right, so now I will discuss a few questions and the approaches you should be taking for those questions, and just recommendations and nothing more than those that you should be having in mind while answering these questions. The first question, of course, most likely 80% chances you would be asked this question, also because they may not have read the form properly which you would have filled there. So they want you to do the explaining, but it's also for the sake of formality that the first question happens to be introduce yourself. Now, the caveat here is that if, let's say, you are the last or the second last person on that given day walking in there, so you probably won't have the luxury of introducing yourself. They already have read it and they want you to just start, because they want to get done with that day, go back to their hotel rooms. That's the only reason. That doesn't actually mean by the way, so the time, I should say, the time for those discussions with the chit chat and all those on your favorite forum, that is over now. You have to be absolutely thoroughly prepared. You have to anticipate the questions, answer those questions. This phase should require more work than the previous phase. In the next 1 month, you should be making a lot of notes. You should be imagining, you should imagine questions being asked from you, and you answering those questions. Ask yourself whether you will be convincing or not. These things have to be done. But yeah, so you have to introduce yourself. Now, since I have interviewed not billions and millions, but billions, but at least hundreds and hundreds of people, typically it starts from school. People start with their I come from this place. One suggestion again comes from personal experience. I absolutely don't like, and I'm sure they also have similar feeling. Don't try to get brownie points because you are from underquote small town. Many people start their the first sentence is I come from this small town called. in, in fact, one of the people the last year, he was from my place, and he said I'm from the small town. I got really offended. I never thought it's a small town, but says it's a small town. So the point is, no, so many people like you have been there, have told the same thing. It is not going to work out. Don't look for unnecessary. If you are from a small town, if you have struggled, if your vernacular has been your primary medium of instruction, all these things are there, they will anyway come out, and they will see the struggle. But don't try to get brownie points for some struggle which you never did. That comes out as absolutely insincere, that too at the beginning of it. And then people start from their school. So then I went to this in standard 8, I won this debate and painting competition. In ninth I did this. In 10th I did this. In plus 2 I prepared for IIT JE. That they don't say, but obviously there's nothing from plus 2. And then 12th I did this, and then I went to engineering, and no talk about what did they do in engineering. All of the people, by the way, are cultural coordinators. It is an absolutely, again, Trump would say, fantastic global phenomenon, at least Indian phenomenon, that everybody is a cultural coordinator in their college. As soon as they go to their college, I was a cultural coordinator or the head of some logistic committee in my cultural show, or something of this sort. So let me warn you on this front. It maybe you were, but everybody is. So and certainly that shouldn't be your the raza and the etre. That shouldn't be the reason why you were doing engineering. And it is all right to not have a good CG, but to demean 4 years, or to condense 4 years into your coordination activity of a cultural program, which all of us know how much activity does it need, and what happens during that program, let us not even discuss. So so that comes out as absolutely disrespectful of the 4 years that you have spent in an institute. So my recommendation is keep it academic first, and then you go to the other. I'm not saying you don't say it. Even if you want to fake it, it's up to you. I won't stop you from doing that, but let that not be the first reason. I was a cultural coordinator of my college festival, or I was the editor of the cultural book or something. If it's a technical one, so people say IEEE chapter, I was there. That is all right. That relates to the hardcore curriculum. But did you study something? So you have to talk something about that, or just say these something which you see. One thing is there. If you have published papers, participated in technical seminars, and you have really liked them, you can talk about them. You have to absolutely put them there. So anyway, so people progress from there to there. So by the time they have entered engineering, the faculty, all the three members are bored, and they don't even let you come to the work experience. And the next question comes. You have succeeded in your objective to not go to the work experience part, possibly. You see, people start from school because they don't want to face questions from engineering, and they don't want to face questions from their work profile. But that is the worst way of approaching the interview. So again, my recommendations are these. This is not a format. I've just put it in this form. You should start with your with your name. And you should start with your name, and then your graduation. Where have you graduated from? Which institute? Which discipline? And you are right now, if you're working in this firm on this project for these many years. Talk about your work and before that you see, again I'll come to this point, just hold on. So you have to talk about what you have done. If you have worked for 2 years, you just can't say I've been working as a software engineer for 2 years, and then you come to, and my hobby is listening to Hindi music and watching cricket. These are the two favorite hobbies which everybody uses. Most people, not everybody, not the extreme one. You want to spend more time on listening to Hindi music and watching movies or something, and maybe you can be creative there. Watching action, people say watching action movies because they want to be asked, oh, why action movies? And it is all right at your stage. It is all right. We are all. I am voice in retrospect. Even as I say, I remember. So when I was appearing for my interview, I had a call from IMK. So I wanted to be asked a question from, I won't say a hobby, but something I could do well, mimicry of movie stars. Right. So I thought that let me be asked from this. I will just say, can I just take 10 seconds? And I already had a ready-made skit in my mind, and I would say, okay, yeah, please, and they will be very impressed. I was supposed to end it with, I'm not sure if I do this or not, but I thought I will end it with, oh, I love you, I am okay. So this was my plan. And the first question from me, and I had put this in the form. Anything else you want to? The first question from me was really heartbreaking. It was that, you really thought we are going to ask you to perform here? And this person, I remember he seemed like he had directly descended from the Himalayas. He had a long beard, some saffron clothes. He was sitting there. I thought just the worst kind of of pitch to make in front of him. So I said no. I just put it there because I did not have anything, right? So what I'm saying is, let us not focus on the things. And now let me tell you this. I converted the call, by the way, but the point is this: even if I do this skit or drama for 10 minutes, they absolutely applaud. Will they select me? Why should they select me? They should actually be rejecting me. I should be going to a drama institute and not to a B school. So when we try to kill time, it was good that I wasn't asked to do that. But if we try to kill time, we are killing our chances. We have to actually encourage them to ask questions that matter, right? Which would be, if you have work experience, there is no better interview in my opinion than the one which is entirely on your work experience. If you are a fresher and they discuss about your engineering subjects, don't be scared of it. You admit what you don't that you don't know, but I think you should like that, because they are evaluating you as a student or as a sincere employee. So those things are to be kept in mind. So my blunt recommendations, first I told you, try to lead the interview, but don't hope for it. Absolutely don't hope for it. And when I say lead the interview, it doesn't lead in the direction of, can I just take a piece of paper and paint here, or can I sing a song here? What if they ask? No, I know on these forums, so that must be the discussion. What if they ask me to sing a song? They are just enjoying because they are bored. You are the sixth candidate most likely, so they want you to sing a song. Meanwhile, they are not even listening to the song. They are just relaxing, and you have lost your 5 minutes there. So when I say lead the interview, you can try to lead the interview in the direction of your work experience, your academic profile, anything else which you think is interesting, but let us not hope for it, right? And then don't try to hide your work profile. Glorify it, encourage them, entice them. If you are good at it, seduce them, but they have to come to your work profile. Your primary objective is to make them come to your work profile. If you have more than a year of experience, I think you have to somehow talk about your work. And how do you talk about your work? we'll possibly, I think we'll come to that. But the point is, the best interview is on your work profile, and they will usually not do it unless you put it in your introduction. So if in your introduction you have successfully, so from your introduction you want to hide it, it will be absolutely clear that you don't want to talk about it, and they won't ask you on such questions. And that's the worst kind of interview. You have not succeeded, you have failed. So you should put some description about your work, projects which you have been a part of, certain other. I will come to what you should highlight from your work experience. Now hobbies. Now people get very worried about hobbies. I don't have a good hobby. That's really good, because you will devote more time to your studies. Otherwise, again, you will be the cultural coordinator of the B school. I don't think they want you to do that. So don't be ashamed that you don't have, under quotes, a good hobby. Don't put hobbies just for the sake of it. So if you actually listen to Kishore Kumar songs, then say I listen to Kishore Kumar songs. But frankly, is that a hobby? All of us do that, not just Kishore Kumar songs, any song. So that shouldn't be your priority. So maybe downplay it. There's nothing called a good hobby or bad hobby. All I'm saying is, don't be worried about a hobby. You don't want a 10-minute discussion on your favorite song and your favorite movie and come out happy from it. because what are they going to award you the marks on, right? So that shouldn't be your objective. With achievements, with regards to achievements at workplace, or from your school, from your engineering or whichever institute you have been to, the achievements should only be the big ones, the better ones, the best ones, according to you, whatever are the best. Right? So school debate, and you participated in some competition in school, if you think that is the best one, then you can say it, but I don't think you should even be saying it. And in sports, you are good at it, you have been the captain of your school, college teams, you can say it. Right? So those you have to, this is for you to decide what are your biggest achievements. It is not that you have to compare with others and they say, oh, this is not a really good achievement. According to you, what are the big achievements? Unless they are trivial, I think you can mention one or two of them. Again, preferably from your work. From your work. You were given a chance to lead a project. You were probably promoted before others, selected for a special kind of project. That is your achievement. You have to mention that first, right? So now another thing is, just because they don't stop you does not mean that you just continue non-stop. You know, like I am probably doing right now. It's a live session, but I have the luxury. So you don't just continue talking. You have to look spontaneous. Understand this very clearly. You have to look spontaneous, but you actually don't have to be very spontaneous. You may end up saying something on which you are going to defending which you are going to spend the next 10 minutes. So that would be absolutely disastrous. You have to look spontaneous, but you have to be very measured in your mind. Now this thing comes from mock interviews. And by the way, the number of mocks, the better it is. Anybody can take, anybody right now, you can ask your friends, the serious ones, to take your mock interview. You'll be surprised at the end of it, you get consistent feedback. You don't want to accept it, but you will get it. From beginning with how you move your roll your eyeballs during the interview, it will be very consistent. So the more you give, the better it is. You have to get used to talking to people while looking at them, like I'm getting used to talking to this camera. It's tough to do, but I'm getting used to it. So you have to get used to that. Not a bad idea actually to record your interview on camera and then study it. We don't want to face it, right? I'm learning actually right now to watch my own videos. I just hate to watch my own videos. So you have to study your every movement there. So don't, only then will you look spontaneous without an effort being made. That is something you have to keep in mind. Otherwise, the struggle will be there, and the struggle, it's very awkward to see somebody struggling. You want to, the professors, they offered me chocolate or they offered me water. What does it suggest? It just suggests probably you are sitting very uncomfortably, and it's not going to get you negative marks or positive marks, but it makes you lose some 34 seconds to 1 minute of your time. So just be relaxed and do this. Yeah, now this is one favorite possibly slide of mine. And now there are two themes which are absolutely super hit, and fantastic themes from since 2015. I'm bored of it. I'm sure every professor who comes for conducting the interview is bored of it. Now in your mind, think of these two themes. You would have already possibly thought about it, that I'm going to highlight this, and you will be one of the 90% people who are going to do this. You think you are among the 1%, but you will be among the 90%. Theme number one is NGO. I think going by the number of people who say they are associated with an NGO, India should have been, the golden age of India should have come back by now. But everybody is, I think on the weekend, everybody is teaching somebody. That has become the norm, going by the answers the people give in the interviews. I'm associated with this NGO, and I have taught poor kids, or people teach the kids of their maid, or they go to some outing organized by their company, which is sometimes we know are compulsory, and they say they are doing great work in charity, and they absolutely think that this is something which will give them brownie points. So NGO, everybody works with an NGO on the weekend. And the other theme is everybody is associated with a startup. not everybody, again 90% of the people have a friend who have a startup, and these people have somehow helped their friends do great things in their startup. Mostly the coders say I helped them code, right? I got them the architecture and all these things come out, and they are associated with the startup. Even if they are working full time with a company, they are associated with a startup. Now the problem with these two is not just that, almost everybody is saying it. You come across as somebody who is not sincere, it is easy to understand you have not done it. There will not be a cross question, but it will be easy to understand unless you have been a part of it. And for the NGO thing, it is not actually, you are saying I'm doing great work, charity work, and it's up to you how do you bring it out. You have to see how does it come out in the mock interviews. If it looks like you're using it deliberately to get some extra marks, I don't think anybody would like that. But if you are saying this in the context of an answer, you have been asked a question and then you are saying this, then I think it makes sense. If at all you are involved with an NGO, and by involved I mean you have spent at least, let us say, 8-10 weekends on those. Regarding startup, if only you are associated, you have to say it. And by association I would mean you understand the business, you have actually done a lot of hard work. And more importantly, many people get caught on this aspect. You see, most companies will not allow you to work for any other company if you are employed full time by them. So you have to figure out if your company policy actually permits it. You don't want to come across as unethical. All of us are unethical in some way, but we don't want to be caught on this front, right? So you have to read the company policy, and then maybe you make up your mind whether or not you want to say this. Now the thing about startup is the other aspect. If you are not associated with the startup, if you are not helped the startup do great things, most likely you want to have your own company in 10 what's the phrase, 5 years or 10 years down the line. You want to say I'll have my own company 5 years down the line. Now that is something for which if I were the in charge, I would immediately reject people as soon as it is said. That is simply, you're bluffing. How can you sit on a great idea? So only two circumstances arise. Either you don't have an idea, then how are you confident that you're going to start a company after 5 years? Or you have an idea and you're going to sit on it for 10 years. Meanwhile, a lot of things will change, and you still want me to believe that you will start your company under quotes 10 years down the line. So that is something which should be avoided. Maybe you want to say my recommendation, if you want to go, and it's an absolutely great way to have a great interview. If you have a good idea, if you have sort of a business plan, or at least you have done some work on it, then you say you want to start this company. I would say start it in the B school itself, and then that will be your practical along with all the theory, and then work on it, launch the company there, and then work on it, take it to great levels there. What greater ecosystem to have than that of a B school? So you have to be that convinced there. But when you say that, it actually has to be a business plan. Absolutely tough to get away with the startup, with a fake startup story. It cannot be, because it's easy to figure out. After 4-5 cross questions, you would end up admitting that I haven't really thought about it. I'll think about it 2 years after this thing. So unless you are sincere, my recommendation is don't go in this territory. But if you have worked, you want to really do something on the startup line, or you are really involved with an NGO, go there. It's up to you. Now again, this is just for the sake of it. That introduction comes when you have that much time. But if it's a short introduction, you just talk about in the same way where you are working, and the capacity in which you are working, the projects that you are handling, where you have done your graduation from, and what you do in your free time. That should be your quick introduction. Because when they say be quick, when you're being asked to be quick, you can't just carry on. That is very annoying. So just I think this should do. Also be alert. One common mistake is they address you by your name, and you begin with, so I am Donald Trump. You start with that, but they've already asked you, hello Donald Trump, how are you? And you don't have to start with I am Donald Trump, because that shows you are a poor two things: you are a poor listener, and also that you are coming there with a memorized answer. I'm absolutely in favor of. How many times have I said absolutely in this session? This Donald Trump is ruining me. So absolutely. So yeah, I'm in favor of you memorizing answers and appearing spontaneous. You don't have the luxury of thinking it through at that time, but then you don't have to make these blatant mistakes, right? That shows you as a poor listener. Now about your work, if you have worked, uh, even if it is for 6 months or something, this question can come to you, or you have highlighted your internship, then this will come to you. By the way, if you are a fresher, in your introduction you can highlight your internship if you think it's worth highlighting. You did some outstanding job, you want them to ask you about it, why not put it there? Leave it up to them whether they want to talk about it or not, right? So if you talk about your work, now how do you proceed with this? How do you uh, now there shouldn't be the first requirement from my side is you shouldn't be desperate to show yourself as a management candidate, that oh, I have to go for an MBA, therefore I have to be some already in the managerial level, or those things. Of course it should come out from your answers and you can prepare for those answers, but I don't think you should be desperate to do it in some way. So the objectives here, and it's up to you, but the first one in my opinion is this. Again, it comes from all the mocks that I have done. You have to you have to actually appear to be really proud of all the work that you have done. And again, I'm saying you have to be visibly proud. Maybe you are proud, but the way you talk about your job doesn't they're seeing you for the first time. So if you are very laid back, you are not excited when you're talking about your work, it doesn't come out as somebody. So see, the thing is, they also know you are escaping your current job, right? You don't want to be doing it, but have you done justice to the time that you have spent there? I know most of you haven't. You are writing your cat mocks, hiding somewhere in the office, or making some excuses, but you have done some work. So are you proud of that? Now I would say, if you are not, the trick to be so is to think about somebody who is. You have that annoying person, right, in your office, who you wonder, wow, what does he like so much about this job? There's nothing in this. You hate it so much, but they like it. You have to be the person who loves that job, because otherwise you come across as an ungrateful person who doesn't value the opportunity, because you would have said great things that you will do when you were appearing for it in your campus placement. So you have to be really proud of the work that you have done. You have to think about what work have you done. Every work is important. You have to think about those. Now when it comes to positioning your answer towards let us say a B school requirements, you have to possibly discuss multitasking, that you were involved in other things too. Multitasking here again would mean two technical projects at the same time can also be multitasking. It's not that, no, I was this in this coding assignment and I was also organizing company picnics. That is not something which is multitasking. For some reason people assume that they have to show this HR side of theirs somehow. Again, by HR side I mean human. So networking and all those things, that, oh, I was a team player. They trivialize the entire field of HR by saying these things. So multitasking, tight deadlines, right? These things are important. It was a project that is important, that comes from the deadline, right? And possibly you consulted the senior managers on this, worked with the top management for some time. Again, I'm not saying you fake it. You think about the scenarios which you were in, and then you have to prepare your answers around that, right? So this is something which you will what is coming across as sincere and good will come out in the mock interviews, which or your friends can suggest. That's not a problem. Right, now one thing is there. So most of your examples should show your interest in management, without saying that I am very passionate about management. So as soon as you ask, oh, my passion is management. From my very childhood, I was passionate about management. Honestly, did you even hear about MBA? Did you wanted to be a top actor or a scientist or something, but you're not thinking about MBA in your school, to be honest. but from a very childhood I have been passionate about management. The worst kind of answer. Right, so you give examples mostly from your work or your internship, which show your interest without you stating it. See, if you are interested, your answers will show it. If you have to say I am very passionate, then actually you are not passionate. That passion will come out when you're talking about it. So you discuss about problem solving, customer service. It's an excellent area. Customer service, possibly something which makes or mars a company. Maybe you're involved in that to some extent, or client interfacing, something, creating action plans. Think about those. It can be a very small, on a very small scale, but yes, you have some understanding of how these things are done. That will help your case. Like I said, do not highlight trivial things at work, because it's again, even if it is harmless, you're consuming your 30 seconds on something which is actually not going to get you any positive marks and something. So whatever you do, if possible, you scale it up. That at an, by scaling it up, I mean at an organization level, this was the impact. This is the thing which you did, but at an organization level, this was the impact of the project, which is, or the client, for the client, this was the impact. Why is that important? Because it shows that you are somebody who's aware of the sector, of the company, not just sitting in an office. Even if you are, see, one thing I must tell you is, now they also know you are preparing, right? The other side of the table knows that you are preparing. Now, even if you have not, but you give trivial answers there, it means that after so much preparation, after so much of thinking through, you are so stupid that you will give this as an answer. Why should they risk having somebody like you in the school? So it is assumed that you are preparing, or maybe you are being tutored. It is assumed, and that is the level at which you are supposed to perform. So you have to be spontaneous. You have to be very aware of what you are saying there, right? So, and again, I have to emphasize, just do not assume that since you have done the so-called technical job in the last 2 years, 3 years, it is going to work against you. Considering the themes of the last 2 3 years, I think it may even work in your favor. So if you think, no, you're not comfortable with coming up with the sector related or company related or all those aspects at all, you talk about your work, your problems there, how you have evolved. Maybe you subscribe to an online course to on Coursera or somewhere. You subscribe to an online course to understand coding better. Those things, you worked hard. I think that will come across as really sincere and good. It should show you as a person who has continuously improved. And there's nothing, no better story than a hardworking person continuously trying to improve himself or herself. But again, you cannot fake this. I would say you just cannot fake this, because when you talk about it, it will come across. It will, people will be able to make. You don't have to be somebody who has conducted hundreds or thousands of interviews. It will come across as as fake. So if you actually have worked hard on something, don't be ashamed of it. So let's say maybe you are not very good at English and it was impacting your work performance. You can say how you worked on it, and that will absolutely work in your favor, because then you have improved. You have worked on a huge stumbling block, and here you are talking in that language. That will work in your favor, right? So these are my suggestions for your this thing. Another suggestion for this is just to keep you grounded, that you run in your mind, note it down. What do you do at work? What do you actually do at work? Alright, so you have to note down what is your typical day like. What do you do? Because you may end up talking a lot of things with 1 year of experience, but actually what is it that you do at your typical day at work? So note down, I do these things and then I do this, then there's a meeting. Make it as micro as possible, so that you do understand that this is the work I do, and then sometimes I do this at this frequency. I'm doing this. That will keep you grounded, and that will ensure that you don't end up making fantastic claims when you are appearing for your interviews. Right. So this question, you already are being haunted by this, I think, and this will haunt you in all your interviews. I remember somebody asked me in the campus placement interview. Somebody asked me, "Why did you do MBA?" And I was like, "Really?" I thought after 2 years you're not supposed to ask this. So sometimes people have know that this is something which can't be justified. So you have to be prepared with this. Now people over prepare for this answer is what I think. Right, one thing is there again. You are one product. It is not that, see, if there are 10 questions and you give 10 brilliant but divergent answers, that's a bad interview. That's a bad interview. Why is that? Because I don't get any theme from your answers. I have to get some theme. What? So so let's say I do 7 mock interviews, right? I am doing 7 mock interviews. At the end of it, I will think about somebody, that person, who was this, whose story was this, who has done this, who wants to do this, who really wants to do this. I should think of you on those terms, and everything should bring me to that theme. I don't remember your name, but I do remember what you want to do, because I'm sure that you actually want to do it. It can be actually anything, so long as you are sincere. You don't have to go through the placement reports of companies to find out, oh, whether that company comes here or not. Nobody stops you from getting a job outside the institute if you are convinced about it. So you have to be sure of that. So if you want to get into advertising, for example, I'm just giving you one example. If you want to get into advertising, if you look at the placement reports, in none of the top B schools advertising companies come. Right, but does that mean that you shouldn't be saying advertising? Because they may ask, oh, we don't get advertising companies. Here you can get an internship, you can get an offer. Nobody stops you from doing that if you retain your passion and do some work on it. So you have to bring in that theme. This question is also an opportunity to bring that theme in place, into action here. Right. So again, suggestions, I shouldn't be suggesting this should come to you naturally. So you are really interested in doing something, going somewhere, being someone. That is your theme. The MBA plays a role in it. I do understand, they also understand that you are doing this because this gives a weightage to your CV. It's assumed. Even if you say it, it's not you. So many people say, oh, I'm doing this because I wanted this, because I did not do engineering from a very good college, and therefore I want this tag. And somehow they think that they will get extra marks for being honest. But the point is that that is something which is assumed anyway. You are doing this, you are in that institute because you want to put it on a CV. But what is beyond that? Right? Why is it that you want to do something? This is something which you have to have to bring in there. So you have some experience. When you say I want to do this thing, or I have done this, you have to have some experience or knowledge, or at least interest. Right? If you're talking about some destination you want to reach, the so-called long run, where do you see yourself as, all the dots have to get connected to take you there. Right? So you have to think about that, but you have to have your experience or knowledge. You want to you can't fake it, right? If you have to fake it, I'm not advising you to not fake it, but your task is really cut out now. Let us assume you have all trimmings removed. You have just 20 days. In those 20 days you have to be a subject matter expert, and you have to know all about that thing which you want to do in the long run. You have to do it. The answer which I have developed a disdain for is that I will take a call after my MBA, after working for 3-4 years. I think that era has passed. We're talking about the pre-internet era. All of us read, all of us know about the things which are going on, and we cannot assume a B school, which also means that you have a little understanding of how a B school works. They are not letting you have the aim of your life. That will not come out there in those 2 years. It's a packed schedule. At least in the first year. Second year is relaxed, very relaxed. But anyway, so they are not going to help you do that. So you can't just say, either you say I will just take up this job and I'll move, I'll move in this sector, something. So my recommendation is, which many people don't suggest, but I absolutely suggest, is you have to have a sector of your choice. I want to be in the healthcare sector. I want to be in the e-commerce sector. I want, even if it's aviation, it is all right. Even if it is space science, it's all right. There are many people from ISRO actually who come for for these interviews, and they want to get into marketing, space marketing, which is also all right, so long as you are sure and so long as you know about it. It is all right, and I think you should have own a sector. So think about the sector. If it relates to the company you are working, it's possibly you can manage it well. If it is not, you have to do, because see, one thing is there, the interviewers don't come pre-decided and let us bombard this person with this question and this set of questions. They want to discuss something with you, and if you don't offer anything to discuss, then it will be random questions, and average, you can do well there and get average marks. It will be random questions. You are forcing them to think of questions. That's the worst kind of interview that you can possibly prepare for. Okay, I'm not decided on this. Any sector? No. Do you know about this? No. What should I ask you from? So you can ask me from anything. So basically, you are interviewing the interviewers. You are telling them what question should you do. Can you ask really well, and then you face the fury. So you have to give them, and most likely you will be asked. These so-called, again, stress interviews don't happen. There's nothing called a stress interview. You put yourself under stress. That is the stress interview. Many people surprisingly come and say, sir, take my stress interview. The most bizarre thing, again it will happen, one of two of you may end up saying, take stress interview, I want to prepare for stress interview. Now if you come walking in knowing it's going to be a stress interview, how will it be a stress interview? And there is no stress interview. You go there, you get nervous, and that is your stress interview. So you have to ask yourself, do you have any area of interest on which there can be a dignified 10 minutes of discussion? If it is not, then you have to work on it in the next month or so. Right? So you are doing MBA because it's the milestone to your destination. It's just one milestone, and absolutely people can reach that milestone without the MBA. You don't have to worry about that. Elon Musk never went to a B school. Steve Jobs never went to a B school. Oh, that's a very trick question. You just have to say, my personality type is such that I like things structured. I have planned it in this manner, and therefore I'll go for it. You have to say that very, very sincerely. Right? So don't think that you will be cross-questioned unnecessarily on this. Like I said, people over-prepare for this question. The best way to answer this is to live the life of the person or professional you want to be. So my simple advice to you, if at all you want to prepare well for this question, is you go to LinkedIn or you consult your seniors in various B schools and ask for the job description on which they are supposed to work. People have, I would say 90% of those who come have close to nothing. They know close to nothing about the kind of jobs that they will be offered. So it's a very romanticized version of the life that they want to live. Go to LinkedIn, check out their profiles, the real work that they are doing, look at a few job descriptions which come to the seniors when they go for placement, and then say, okay, this is the job description I write. So you have to again write a job description for yourself when you pass out from the B school. That this is the job I want to do, these are the points. When you are clear about that and when you live that life, I think you can easily manage to do well in this question. You'll be very convincing because you actually want to be there. Right? So that is something which has to be kept in mind. One question I must answer right now, you can't ask actually, you must be chatting as we speak. I don't see the questions. Is that should you highlight that I'm interested in marketing or finance or such aspects? Should I mention that, or should I say no? It will just be a general management. I haven't taken a call where my interest lies. I would say you have to say I am inclined towards finance, marketing, operations, HR, anything you want to say, because it is not possible to not be inclined. You actually are inclined. You don't want to say it because you think, oh, there will be cross questions on that, but that is all right. You are saying I'm going to be inclined. Anyway, we'll be doing a lot of sessions on marketing, finance, everything. We'll do that. But if you are interested, I think it will show. It will show from the way you give the answer. If you are saying finance, you don't actually have to know a lot of, let's say, accounting. Unless you are from commerce, then you're supposed to know accounting. But if an engineer interested in finance, you don't have to worry about that. If you know, it's good. and you can say that proactively that I can analyze financial statements, I can do some elementary valuation, these things you can say. But you, truth be told, right now have a specialization in mind. I think you should highlight that, because that shows that you are prepared to to use the 2 years in. And from my personal experience, the people who come sure about what they want to do, let's talk about life after B school too, they go on to do really well even after B school. So even from that point of view, I think this is time for you to get serious about it. And right, so now you have to be very specific about these things. You don't have to use jargons. I think you should try to avoid any jargon in your page, because then you come across as a parrot who is just narrating a script. Even if you are narrating a script, that script should be without a jargon. So again, so you should be a hardworking person. Now people somehow think they will be leading a team of 20, 30, 50, the entire company after coming out from B school. Let me assure you this, you will most likely not be leading any team for at least 5 years after you graduate from your B school. And now you have to absolutely okay, you have to understand this thing that you are not going to lead any team. So why you are saying this is because you have no idea about the profiles that you are going to get after after graduating from there. Once you know it, you will be more specific. So you have to talk about the specific things, right? For example, one common mistake is people think marketing is making ads. It's shocking, but people come with such explanation, because I like ads, or I know which are the favorite ads, why did they do well, that is the reason I should take up marketing. So my reasoning is simple: marketing is sales. If you can't do sales, you can't run on the streets, and then you are highlighting the wrong profession, because most of the jobs which are offered on the campus are sales, and not the so-called sitting in the cabin and thinking of great campaigns that you will be running. Right? So you have to understand this thing. So you have to be very, very grounded. You have to know about, I would say, see, you have to know about the job descriptions of the kind of job you want. You have to know about, one of my favorite questions in the mock is, when they say I really like this B school, is tell me 5 subjects which we teach here. This is my favorite question. People say marketing management, financial management, HR management, operations management, and something else. Most likely this is what they say. And when I say forget this, tell me, be specific, tell me 5 electives, there's no answer, but they are saying they want to truly enter the institute. So you have to, I will come to that point, you have to know, you have to be as specific as possible. Whatever you say, that is true for the interview, and that is the reason why Knappily does well. You have to get into inside the skin. Not, you don't have to be superficial there. You have to be very, very specific, because otherwise people may be annoyed. They won't show it on their face, but you come across as somebody who is trivial, shallow, tutored, and most likely who wouldn't care much about being in the institute. So you don't want to do that. Right, so now, yeah, one more area of, again, I'm taking up these FAQs mostly. Now people ask, oh, if I say my work is so good, then they will ask, then why are you leaving it? It is all right. Who says that because you like something, you continue doing it for the rest of your life? Or that, should I actually relate everything to my current work experience and everything? It is not needed. Your interest should be there. That you are interested in something, and that will show from your answers. So yes, it is good, but you want something else, and therefore you are going to the B school, because these things are absolutely required, right? You want a structured inflow of knowledge that only a B school environment can give to you in 2 years, and again, more specific than this. Therefore you are going there. You can come back to the same company if you want to. That also will is left to you. You can change the sector you want. You can go to any place you want, so long as you can prove that you are actually interested. So yes, this is interesting, but that interests me more right now, and therefore I am going there. Right? So your job is actually very fulfilling. Take it from me, your job is very fulfilling. your internship was great, everything about your work and internship was great. If you have any block in your mind right now, just remove it. With that kind of negativity, you are not going to be the person who gets the maximum marks on a given day during the interviews. So it's very fulfilling, right? There's a reason why you'll be going for the interview, because they allowed you to do it. They did not burden you so much that you couldn't write your cat and zat. So let's forgive our organizations and be happy about what we did there, and and take it from there. Again, have 3 4 examples, as many examples as possible, but at least 3 4 examples, right? Because if you talk again globally, I did some outstanding work there. I led a team for doing some cross functional work in something which you are not very clear about. It come across as fake even if you have done it. So just put names, numbers. I always prefer names, numbers, client names if you're allowed to, otherwise you use the pseudo names. The numbers that are there, the impact that it had, it should be as numeric as possible. Like this led to a growth of 5% or something. It has to be that specific, and then you can show your interest is there. So interest is not something which comes from you saying I'm interested. It comes from what you say about your work or life, or whatever you want to do. Right, so and then this question, that why from our institute? You are, if you are going for more than one mock in, sorry, not mock, if you are going for more than one interview, this is a good problem to have. You know, but again, if you're going just for one interview, that's the best scenario. So I'm leaving you with both these thoughts. Not leaving you, I'm still continuing with both these thoughts. So why from our institute? Right, so the standard answer is because it's a great, it's one of the top ranked institutes with great professors, with rocking, absolutely fantastic rocking peer group, and a lot of clubs are there. And of course you don't want to say, but sometimes you end up saying, and good placements too. This is the standard answer. Now if you have to do justice to your homework, you ask yourself, can this answer be given for any other institute too? Can you just plug and play this answer anywhere? So if that is the case, then you have not done justice to the question at all. You have not answered the question, you have wasted your time. So here you have to do groundwork, which means you have to talk to the students who are there, and you obviously can find out students who are there. If from nowhere else, then go to LinkedIn, connect with them, and talk to them. And you have to ask, because see, the institute is not the website. You have to keep this in mind. Most of the websites are not even updated properly. So people go to the website, they memorize something from there. Oh, this club, that club is possibly dead. I think the club died 3 years ago, and you are there talking passionately about that, the fact that you will join that club and do great things there. The name itself would have changed. So don't judge an institute from a website, from its website. You have to talk to the people who are there. Right? You have to talk to the real people who are there. You can connect even with the professors if you can. I think they would be happy to discuss the things with you, or at least the students there, or at least somebody who knows people who are there, right? And don't get into gossip. Most of the students studying in any institute are a depressed lot. You are excited right now, you want to go there. After 1 year, you will be telling, "Arey, why come here? Go to some other place." So not that kind of a discussion. Just should I come here, or should I do this, something else? Just ask them that, if I have to say this, let's say if I have to show my interest in marketing, what are the avenues open for marketing here? Is there something else which has come up in the last 1 year? Any other initiative which has been taken? The electives which are offered? Those kind of questions. You have to be very specific with your questions so that you can get the right answer. Otherwise, in general, it would be, it would simply be, why do you even want to come here? That kind of a tired answer will come just because you were not asking the right questions. Right? So every institute has a story. You have to understand the story. It is not as it is unbelievable that most people, when they say it's a great institute, an old institute, they can't even answer when was it started, or who is the director right now. This is something which you don't expect to be asked, because it would be very trivial. You are expected to know this. But again, these are hygiene factors. If you don't know this and you are saying, oh, I think this is a great institute with great faculty, you can't name 3 faculty and why they are great, right? And I don't think you should get into the names of faculty unless it is necessary, unless you actually are involved, and then you do it. uh, because then if that faculty is not on the other side, we are all humans anyway. So yeah, so you talk about the opportunities that come to you, and you can only be specific here if you know what you want from the B school. This is the kind of job I want, this is the kind of career I want marketing, finance, or something. What are the things I can participate in right now, right? So here you have to do the research. And again, doing this research will require you to connect with people, and it is not the forum on which you are active there. I don't think that's the right. There are two kinds of people there: one who are representing their institute and talking well, the others who are just chit chatting. And of course then two three of us, of our people also, they're inviting you to seminars like this, so you have to bear with that. But the point is, you have to talk to the people studying there. And again, this is one opportunity. This is a question which we usually don't prepare for, where you come across as somebody who is going to value the 2 years in the institute. Not everybody is going to IIM ABC, right? Very few will make it there, and it is all right. And if you have multiple calls, you can say I want to go to IIM A, and then I want to go to C, and then B. Okay, no, whatever you want to, but you are sitting there, right? In whatever institute it is, you are sitting there, and you don't know a lot about it. That simply shows you are not going to value the opportunity in the next 2 years. So that is disrespectful. You shouldn't even be appearing for such interviews. Then you should just let others have a shot at it. Alright, so these are the I think I put this 7 questions here. The other questions are actually cross questions, but these things you can learn anyway. These you can actually speaking, you can learn anyway. But you can learn from Wikipedia, you can join any online course, and all these things. So how should you answer this question? The answer is an honest one. It's an ecosystem you are going to be present in. You are not going to be there in a vacuum. the peer group is important. The entire atmosphere, which is usually charged up, especially late night in the canteen when people are gossiping about things they shouldn't be. Those things are there, but of course don't say that. But it's the atmosphere that will infect you with things that you will be doing for the rest of your life, and that has to come across in a very specific manner, right? So, but don't just say peer group. Again, I'm saying there are certain hygiene factors, which means the curriculum is good, and the faculty are experienced and all that. So you have to again prepare points on why do you think so. You can go and you can look at their profiles and do some research there, and then you talk about the peer group. But then when you talk about the peer group, you should know about the split of the last year's batch, how many people came from which background, and you can say that. Or you can talk about the insights that you got from your discussion with a few students of the institute. Those things are there. So you have to talk about the entire environment. And actually speaking, it should be, not all B schools follow this, but the B school curriculum is as much practical as it is theoretical, and the practical part is mostly left to you. There's also something which you have to keep in mind, and that it's not that they are not practical, it's just that you get caught up with grades and other things, and getting the internship and then worrying about the job. But it is actually practical. It requires you to interact with students from other B schools, not just that same B school. So these aspects have to be kept in mind. The practical part will come from your research on the institute. Again, the best professors, but you have to be specific on why. The kind of diversity of professors, you don't want to name them, don't name them. If you have to, you do. Learning through business case studies. Now, actually every institute does the same case studies, but if you have to be specific, case studies such as this used in this elective, these are the new case studies which are being used in the institute. Now you ask yourself, somebody is saying randomly, case study method is followed here. That is followed in every institute. Every institute has this. I think 70-80% case studies are the same, but 20% are different. And somebody else says, talking about something about some latest news on case study on Paytm and on why it will never succeed or something like that. 2-3 case studies are there, and I showed my bias against Paytm. But anyway, so so if you mention those, then you come across as somebody who understands what is going on in the institute. Peer learning is important. Again, you qualify it with why do you think you need peer learning, which also means that right now you are talking to similar people with similar interests, and there it will not be the case. Right? Actually speaking, what will happen, you will have a group of 4 5 people and you will sit behind and gossip. But that is all right. Here we have to be that ideal student, so we will say this. Holistic perspective simply means that you have a thorough understanding of an entire organization, and that you have a bird's eye perspective of the entire organization. And this you will get by after attending all the classes, and only if you are a sincere student. So these are just, I would say, global points. You have to qualify them with your own research. That research is left to you depending on the institute and the ecosystem you have access to. You should be doing this. Or if nothing else, you check out the LinkedIn profiles of professors and students. Just haunt them. On the last view, your name should show on most of their pages. And so these things are, I think this is what you're supposed to begin with. And I must tell you, this should be an entire week's job. This is an entire week's job. You have to waste a lot of paper in coming up with these things. You have to actually think if you can work with a script. See, there are people who can carry on a script really well. There are people who don't want to go with a script, but they have to have keywords and themes. My usual recommendation for an interview is you think about 5 6 terms or examples which you think you should use to bolster your case for selection, right? And if you have used those 4 5 terms and those examples in those 10 minutes, I think your job is done. Now, for that to happen, you have to be very alert in the interview. So typically what happens in an interview is, I can't mimic it, but usually it is like, hi, my name is this and I'm come this, I'm very passionate, I will do fantastic things, great things, I'll make America great again from sitting in India only, and I will do this. This is the first minute. I'm not sure if I'm coming across this. And after 5 minutes, yes, and yes, this happens. I'm not saying you shouldn't be thinking, but the energy level drops without you knowing it. It just drops. So a high energetic theatrical performance without it appearing as a theatrical performance is what is expected from you. It's a very very tough thing to do. I'm not saying that you should have experience in theater to do it. If you are sincere, you have been. So if you have been sincere through and through, you are good. I don't think you even need to prepare. Provided you are aware of current affairs and all the happenings, you don't even need to prepare. You go there and you will stand out, right? So there are two kinds of people who stand out in any, I would call it a season. One, who have actually done great work, and two, who are sure that they are going to do some great work, and they absolutely are clear about the path that they are going to take. These two kind of people stand out. For you to get there, if you're not there, it will take some effort, but you can get there. The second part you can work on. You have to be there somehow. You can't just walk in thinking that I think by luck it will be a good interview, or somehow I'll avoid technical questions, or maybe the person who is interviewed before me, the candidate who is interviewed before me is actually dumb, so that I come across as very smart. These things you have to prepare for a rainy day, when 4 people who went before you have done a great job, and now you are walking in. Can you be the best performer of the day? I am using the word performer because it's a performance. I don't think naturally anybody would want to give an interview. I hate interviews, but we have to go through it sometimes. So will you be the best performer when everybody, the best of the field, is there? It requires absolutely academic work. You have to have your notes. I think your notebook should be full in the next 20 days of various notes you will be taking, and you will see it works out. If you prepare more, the harder you try, the luckier you get is, I think, beyond doubt. It will do the same. Now, psychologically, what happens? I think I'm just distracting from the next part. But what happens is you want to celebrate your call, or you will spend the next 10 days worrying that you did not get your favorite call. Should I be appearing? Should I be going for these things? You have to decide. It should have been decided by now. And when you go for it, you just go for it. A lot of things are at stake, and most importantly, it's your dignity which is at stake. It really hurts if the interview does not go well, right? So it's something which you don't want to go through. So you have to be very well prepared to be happy. And they will tell you that we like you, we'll see you there. There will be one or two people on a day that, yes, great, because it will come out naturally, because they have been bored, the panel has been bored of people who have not done their homework. There comes somebody who has stood out, that person will be appreciated, right? So these are the things you have to keep in mind. There are more aspects, many more aspects, but I thought in one session I can only get you initiated in this direction. After that, it's your homework, hard work, a lot of hard work. I'm telling this to you. Whatever be your percentile, if you have got a call, you will get that institute if you try your best in the next few weeks. That's the reason you have got a call. So what weightage and all these things, just keep that aside. Let's say when you file the RTI, if at all they allow it, your marks will be the highest on that day. You are preparing for that and for nothing else, right? So now we are not left with, I think we're left with some time. So I thought about current affairs. Like I said, you have to begin with a thorough understanding of Indian economy. The GK section crossing cutoff era is over. That is beyond you now. That I will just somehow cross the GK cutoff. Essentially, you should be regular with Knappily. Even if you haven't been, I can't emphasize that enough. But now you make notes on this. For anything that is asked, any topic on which you are asked, can you make a 10 minutes convincing speech? If you can't make a convincing speech for 10 minutes, you will not make any sense in 1 minute. Two more questions, and I think you will be at the mercy of the panel. Right? And obviously, you don't want to be somebody who is trying to avoid questions. If you place in your mind that, oh, I don't want this type of question. One thing I have not touched upon is, should you be preparing from your engineering or whatever was your graduation stream, should you be prepared on those? My standard answer is, your knowledge should be of the level of somebody who is desperately seeking a job right now from that field. That much basic knowledge is expected and it should be done. If you don't go with it, then it shows that not only did you not know, you did not even bother to know, knowing very well that you may be asked, which means you are insincere, you are insensitive, or anything. Now, if you are an absolutely hopeless case that E of engineering or C of commerce is not known, then of course you forget that. You just say, I was not good at it, and I expect to do well in the remaining questions. And yes, it is all right to say I don't know. I'm so sorry, I don't, unless you say this for the next 10 questions also, it is all right to say I don't know. Why? Because you are saving your 10 minutes, and rather than going round and round on something you don't know only to be caught after 2 minutes, you are saving those 2 minutes for something on which you can impress the panel, right? So it's all right to say we don't know. I'll just give you a brief again, see, this is a 3-4 hour long topic, and one thing is absolutely one thing is sure, that right now when you think thinking of current affairs, you're thinking demonetization, GST, Brexit, Trump, these four things. But current affairs is way more than that. I won't say beyond that. It's way more than that. Of course, we'll not in this session, but we'll discuss GST and other aspects there. But you have to be somebody who is academic in pursuit of current affairs, not the trivial Facebook talk, what you like and what you share, not that kind. A 10-minute discussion from both points of view. Can you do that? If you can do that, then you have done your job well. And you see, economy is not technical. You can't say that Yeah, one thing, one sure sign of somebody who's scared of economy or economics is that as soon as I ask, so about the GDP, so it's gross domestic product. I mean, before even I complete the question, gross domestic product. So I should be impressed because you know the full form of GDP. While I'm going to ask you how does India evaluate its GDP and what are the points of criticism of that method of evaluation. As long as you say, oh, GDP is gross domestic product, I know that I shouldn't be asking you. So I'm just sympathizing with you and there. So it has to be deep knowledge. And I would say this knowledge you can talk like an economist in a matter of 10 days. This is nothing. This entire field of economics is a bluff. Economy is current affairs. It can be it is possible that you they stand up and applaud by your understanding of this. I am not, of course the session does not permit me right now the time to make give you that understanding, and honestly that understanding that will come also from your reading, not just from what I am going to say there. Right, so I'm just see this is the introduction to Indian economy. Now GDP growth rate. Well, many people actually don't know the difference between GDP and GDP growth rate. You ask what is GDP of India, they give the GDP growth rate. You ask about the growth rate, they talk about GDP, and these are hygiene factors. If you don't know this, then yeah, I know you don't know what is the total GDP of India right now, so figure that out. But so this is the latest news. I was taken from there. GDP growth rate is expected to be 6.5%. The government has revised its estimate to 6.5%. Now, when we say the government, is actually CSO, Central Statistics Organization. That body has just released that it will be 6.5%, down from 7.1% in 2016-17. This is not something which you say on a standalone basis to impress the panel. Now you have to understand, is it good or bad? Is it increasing on an increasing trend, decreasing trend? Which means what happened in the last 2 quarters? As we know, in the last 2 quarters, it has come up. It will possibly go up in the coming 2 quarters. That is one. How does it compare with the world growth rate? Is the world economy growing more than it was in the last year, or is it going less than it was in the last year? And those things. And if India is slowing down, or if India slowed down in the first 2 quarters, what slowed it down? Now here you just can't say demonetization and the teething problems of GST, the initial hiccups of the GST. You have to be more technical than that. Why would demonetization impact after it ended in December? So why would it impact in April, May, June? Right. So you have to have your answers for that. And again, GST, a lot of ink has been spilled, a lot of talk has been done, a lot of criticism has been made. But this is one of those concepts where even if I ask what is the Constitutional Amendment Act or bill that implemented GST, you would raise your hands. Yeah, you should feel ashamed of it, not knowing it. That's all right. You Google for it. But also the technicalities of it. What changes have been actually done in the Constitution? How does it impact the federal structure of the country? Of the country? What are the items which were exempted? What is the future growth part of the GST? How was the experience in other countries when they implemented the GST? Is India following one of those tracks? Did we do it prematurely? Was this the right time? What is the scenario of tax collection? Right? All these aspects have to be kept in mind. Right? It was claimed that GST implementation will add close to 1% to India's GDP growth rate. But did they say it will do it in the first year? Everybody knew there will be problems. Right? So you have to be a subject matter expert in this. And again, GST remained the most favorite topic on Knappily for months. Right? I think right now people have got bored. Right now the favorite topic is Bitcoin. But GST was the flavor of, let us say, the last year. You have to be very, very academic in nature when you come to talk about this. Not, I would say, and let me have the luxury of saying this, not the typical Facebook consumer who either loves Modi or hates Modi because he did GST. You love him or hate him. Not that kind of a person. Somebody who can write an academic paper on it. absolutely expected from you. Otherwise, don't bring in GST just for the sake of it. Right, so GDP growth rate again. So there are many other factors too. The GDP growth rate is not just GST and demonetization. We have to look into the demographics of India. We have to look into what is going wrong, the phenomenon of jobless growth, what is happening to the productivity of the country, right? Eventually, what is GDP? You know the definition, you can memorize the definition, the total final value of all the goods and services produced within an economy in a fixed period of time. Yeah, even I memorize these definitions. Now that is one thing to say, but then you have to look from that perspective. This is GDP. Now let me analyze. You can actually go to the sectors. What is happening to agriculture? What is happening to the industry? And what is happening to the services? Now India is losing ground in services. That is possibly something which is the most worrying thing. That in services India is slipping. So again, a 4 or 5 hour long discussion on Indian economy, the path that it has taken. It has jumped sectors. It is a service driven economy, not a manufacturing driven economy. Manufacturing's time has never come. If you look at the contribution of manufacturing to the GDP of India, it has more or less remained stagnant. Percentage contribution, not absolute contribution. And that is where Indian economy has gone, I would say. And that's the worst thing that has happened to the Indian economy. We are trying to correct that right now. We want the contribution from manufacturing to reach to 25% of GDP. A Herculean task, and that has to be accomplished. With this will come your understanding of various schemes of the government. And the talk about Make in India is usually superficial. Oh, Make in India is working, Make in India is not working. That is all you know. Most of you, that is all. But you have to be again academic in approach here, right? So fiscal deficit, the latest figure is that it should be around 3.29%. This is what is expected. Now, of course, you should know what is fiscal deficit, expenditure minus revenue, and a lot of debate on fiscal deficit. Just should the government continue following Arun Jaitley, for example? He doesn't want to follow this. He says there should be a range. Why should it be that it is less than 3.5%, and next year it is supposed to be within 3% because of such a legislative requirement? There's an act, FRBM Act, which mandates it to be so. So why not have a range? Now, is fiscal deficit good or bad? The answer is not in black and white. It is grey. It can be a 4% deficit, which means the government has overspent by 0.5% of the GDP, but we have to look into the nature of the investment. If most of it is capital, which means it has resulted in the construction of assets which will be productively utilized by the economy in the coming years, then you would say it's a fruitful expenditure. Why? Because then it will give a boost to the GDP in the coming years. Finally, what is this percentage? Percentage of the GDP. So if I am spending 100 rupees more this year and it's going to generate 150 more in the next year without the any additional expenditure, it is going to bring the deficit down eventually. So we have to look into capital expenditure or current expenditure in the sessions which I will tell you about the sessions which I will be taking in. Also, I think I'll sound like a capitalist there, but I have to do that, so we'll do it. But this is about our fiscal deficit. Now inflation is right now 4.9%. Many people get confused with what is this percentage. 4.9% over what? Over the last month. So is it that December 2017 over November 2017 or December 2017 over December 2016? Right? It's the year, same month, the last year. Now 4.9% is not bad, but it's disturbing because of the target that the RBI, or to be more specific, the Monetary Policy Committee has for itself, which is 4%. So the target is that the inflation should be at 4% on an average with plus minus 2%. So 2 to 6% is the target. Now this 4.9% takes it closer towards 6%. That will be the red zone where they don't want to go. Now what I put in the bracket is the crude oil price is rising. This can just in a way destroy all the progress made by the Indian economy in the last many years if crude oil price again rises to $90 or $100 per barrel. It has crossed 60. I have not checked recently, but it has crossed 60. it had fallen to 30, because we are an import dependent dependent nation. 80% of the crude oil requirement is through imports, and now that bill will rise. It's around $100 billion if I'm not wrong, but 4 years ago it was $180 billion. So we have saved effectively $80 billion, which we can use on other productive things in the economy. If the prices of crude oil rises, there are politically it will of course have a lot of ripples. Yeah, about the politics part of it, I think you should be interested in the politics part of it, but again in a dignified way, as in talk about the policies, the results of the policies, not just about whether you like him as a person or not, whether it's Modi or the chief minister of your state, anybody. You have to can you mention 10 policies, 10 schemes undertaken, the results of them, and do you think those were in the hindsight, could they have been better? If you can't, then you are in no position to judge. Then you are a typical Facebook consumer, just sharing without actually reading the article. Yeah. And trade deficit, we have the monthly figures now, but if you just read any article, it will raise a lot of concerns about India not benefiting from the global rise of the economy. The world economy is doing better this year than it was doing in the last year, but India's share in global exports is not expanding. Now that is, I would say, one of the most worrying trends of the economy. And again, the crude oil price is rising, which means import will go high. So our trade deficit will rise. There's also another term called current account deficit, which simply means that the net dollars that we owe to the global economy. So current account deficit is basically your trade deficit, which means import minus export. Assuming imports are higher, when I make it current account deficit, it also means other remittances, other dollar settlements done, added to the trade deficit. India, by the way, is the world's biggest recipient of remittances. We receive more money from our people across the world than any other countries. China comes second there. Most of it comes from the Middle East. And again, we have the advantage of the numbers there. We have sent most of our. We are the ones who have sent the maximum people outside, so we benefit from them. Right. So again, so I'm just one more aspect I want to discuss with this. Now, how is India doing? We just say India compared to China, and I'll do a session on India versus China. It's a very good story to know about. But the point is, if you look at this graph, if you can notice the graph, this is talking about export performance when compared to major Asian economies. This is April to November 2017. I think I have taken it from the Mint, from Live Mint. Now look at the country which has benefited the maximum from the global growth in this year. Vietnam, 24%. Of course, then you have South Korea, which does well regardless of all the political scams. Anything, South Koreans keep performing, just like their favorite company Samsung, which anyway Samsung is 25% of Korea's GDP. So if you see South Korea is doing really well, I'm sure therefore Samsung had a good year the last year, in spite of the owners of Samsung being sent to jail. Right, so Indonesia, you should see Indonesia had 16%, Malaysia had at 15%, India comes 5th at 12%. China is losing ground. China is 8.46%. Again, because the base is very high, it's still doing well. And Thailand and the Philippines are very close to India. So India is now, so that era of comparing India's growth with China's growth in export is gone. The question right now is, will India fill in the vacuum that will be left by China, that is being left by China in the global markets? If you see, Vietnam is surging ahead. Thailand and the Philippines are right neck to neck with India, and Malaysia, Indonesia, South Korea we can leave because it's anyway a developed economy, are giving a tough fight to India. So this is where the fight comes from, and this is what I say. Now if you talk in these terms during your answer, and not just parrot one India China, without understanding the, of course you should say India, China, but there's more to it. Now why is China not doing that well? Because China doesn't want to take up low scale manufacturing now. And the low value, China is moving up the value chain. They have taken excellent initiatives and spent again billions and billions of dollars and yuans on ensuring that they move up the value chain. So they have they're sacrificing low end manufacturing. That is a good opportunity. To be very blunt, to take up the leftovers of China is an excellent opportunity for India to give a boost to its manufacturing sector, because no policy maker at least can make a case in India that we move up the value chain in manufacturing. Why? Because we have the again one of the biggest emerging problems in Indian economy is that of jobless growth. We are going to grow at 6.5%, but we are not going to create enough jobs. Now agriculture is what employs 50% of the working population, but agriculture is saturated and agriculture is not profitable. People have to quit that profession. They are forced to be in that profession. Now these people have to be absorbed. Where will they be absorbed? Will they be doing artificial intelligence? If the government takes up artificial intelligence as the next big era and spends a lot, they will be employed in low scale manufacturing. A 3-month program in a government institute, and then they are employed in low scale manufacturing. So the Skill India initiative related to various manufacturing initiatives taken by the government, that is something. So one thing you will see if you look at the policies undertaken by the government of India right from the days of Jawaharlal Nehru. And the first major was the the Industrial Policy Resolution of 1956. Industrial Policy Resolution of 1956. At that time, you had cottage industry as the priority area. Yes, he was all for big publicity companies, but cottage industry was a priority area. Even right now, if you look at National Manufacturing Policy 2011, you will find cottage industry right at the top. And these people are not idyllic people who are just romanticizing cottage industry. That is the only place where the surplus labor can be absorbed. So India's demographic dividend, the so-called demographic dividend, can only manifest if we take care of these people. So why I put this graph here in this short session, you should understand India is at the threshold of an opportunity to fill the vacuum left by China in low end manufacturing, and move people away from agriculture to this. And then after maybe I would say 20 years, India can think of what China is doing right now. But for that to happen, a lot of laws have to change. Labor laws have to change. India actually, if you look at labor laws, we criticize China, but India's labor laws are very communist in nature. The companies can't fire if they are above a certain threshold. They just can't fire their employees. They are locked in with their investment. So the labor laws have to be changed, and certain states have done that. Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh have taken the lead. It has to be done. So in 2018, you will actually not see these labor reforms happening. The reason is simple, because there's an election coming up in 2019. But most likely after the results are decided, if the current government continues, you will find these labor reforms happening there. So see, the jury is still out on the virtues of democracy and this 5-year election system. Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, won another long term. He's planning for the long term. There in India, we do not have that luxury. And again, I'm again saying politics is something which you should take up as even if it is your area of interest. It's very good to have it, but you should think on these lines. The next government comes in, and so it's cutthroat now. It's very bloody out there between the two parties. Let's say the government changes, the next government will reverse all the policies. You are a foreign investor sitting with $20 billion that you want to invest in India. But you do understand that if you invest right now and the elections happen, the government changes. Let me not speculate on the results, but I think most of us know what will happen. But anyway, if the government changes, their investment will be locked in and the policies would have changed. So this complicates a lot of factors. That is a thought. I think I'm just leaving it, the thought with you. So one thing to say Chinese system is bad, we are democracy, therefore we are absolutely, it is good in many aspects, but When it comes to long term planning, we are done away with 5 year plans. We do plan for year to year. But somebody who is going to invest, this is the reason why foreign companies, of course the biggest reason is China has the maximum number of people, but they invest more in China than they do in India, because in China they do understand that it's for the long run. The decision has been taken, the government will remain the same, people are not bored of their president, at least not so far. So these things are important. A lot of other things can be discussed, but again it is I think we are reaching the towards the end of this. So now, so talking about communist countries and mixed economies like India's, I have to tell you about what is possible next. um, yeah, of course, GST demonetization. Let me tell you, just do not spend unnecessary number of hours on this. Read 3 4 enlightened articles on this, or on Knappily you do some, you will get your points. If you ask my personal view on demonetization, I hope not all of you end up saying it. It is good for one simple reason. In economics you have a term, or even in finance you have this term called signaling. So you give a signal to the economy. Of course, most of the black money went white, or was rerouted eventually, but a strong signal was sent to the economy that this may happen again. Many people actually ask me, do you think it will happen again? The kind of people, who have something still after, which has survived demonetization. So do you think it will still happen again? Because of this, many people wouldn't want to go through that hassle again, that they went through that nightmare where they suddenly had to manage the money, and they managed. There were ways to manage, and they did that. That is all right, but that they actually would say, let me pay tax and not go through this again. I just don't have the capacity, have the stamina to go through this again. So that's a strong signal has been sent to the economy. That is the best thing to be. Then signaling is important. Signal is important in monetary policy. Signal is important in fiscal policy. The kind of signals that the RBI and the government sends actually decides what's going to happen in the economy in the next year or so. So that is where this, in goods and services tax is extremely technical. It's more technical than you think. It is much more than good or bad. It is actually grey, and we need to understand what parts are grey and what parts are black and white. So these things are there. Now, so the thing is, from here onwards, we will be doing this in an organized manner. So we have prepared a module for the preparation. It is again, I'm not a capitalist, not even a communist, somewhere in the middle, but this is a paid module. And even if you are not participating in this, let me just take you, this will help you prepare for the session. These are sessions which we have planned to be undertaken. This is an entire team, but most of the sessions will be covered by me, because I like doing this. and there are experts who will be conducting the sessions. So one is the interview essentials, of course, beyond what we have discussed so far on how should you streamline your answers. The basics of economics, you must know about economics, because if you know about, and it's again in 3 hours, it can be done, it can be eminently done, it can be sufficiently done. Supply, demand, opportunity cost, inflation, monetary policy, these are the things you have to know. You just have to go beyond. Repo rate is the rate at which RBI gives credit to the various banks of India. You have to go much beyond that. You have to understand, and that's so this session will equip you to do that. And I think everything is supply demand. They work. Adam Smith was right. There is an invisible hand. Everything is supply demand. If corruption exists, to the extent that if corruption exists in India, it is so because there is enough demand for that. So that basics of economics, state of the Indian economy. It's a 4-hour session, because I want you to understand, to see the entire story, the entire movie from 1947, possibly even a few decades before 1947, as India became independent, to right now. Of course, the critical part was 1990-91, those reforms and how we have done there, done so far, and the future, how it looks right now. And the entire story. This is a 4-hour session, hopefully enjoyable, but I would say indispensable to your preparation that you know about. And again, see, this is an opportunity for you to know the country. You have been we need a target to do this. After having learned all this, you will feel good. Whether or not a question is asked, again, it depends. You can use this in your essay, definitely. If your process involves a GD, absolutely, I think again you are going to use this. Even if you don't, you have come to know about the economy of the country in which you have lived, and I think that's a good outcome in itself. The state of the global economy, both are interlinked, but the state of the global economy, this will be a shorter session because we'll mostly be talking about uh, the world economy after the 2007-2008 financial crisis and the eurozone crisis, and what changed in the global order post that. Then the trade theory, and trade theory is not just for those who have IFT calls. I think we should all know about trade because that is going to determine the GDP eventually. So the basics of some theory on trade theory, various treaties which are in news and you should know about. What happens to the World Trade Organization now? It's in a very difficult situation, and of course the future of trade in the era of Donald Trump, which simply means the biggest economy is now regressing, going inwards. What does the world do without the 18 trillion economy? And can China actually play, which is actually a very reserved nation, play a role there? Now I've kept this session India versus or with China. Is this a possibility that India? This will be a 2-hour session on the two models which were followed, the results that we have right now, and how are they? It's going to be beyond whether India can beat China or not. I think that question is not something which is very good academically speaking. How do they compare right now? What are the parts they are taking? And I think the most important part is the areas where they cooperate. So when it comes to climate change, India and China are the best friends because they benefit collectively. When they are together, the world's two biggest population in the world, they come together to negotiate on that platform. They both benefit. So areas of cooperation, and this is not just Doklam crisis, what India did and India won against China. It's more nuanced than that. So it's just a 2-hour session, but it will cover that. Again, so these are things I think you have to go through. The interview etiquette will focus on the behavioral aspects of the interview, the psychological aspects, what you should not be doing, and if you do so, what signals does it send, is something you should be aware about, with practical examples of the same, not just some theory, but how you should be behaving and how you shouldn't be behaving there. I can tell you honestly, for me, the first feedback anywhere is I am very arrogant. It comes out. I'm arrogant when I'm provoked, but otherwise I'm not. But somehow, this is the feedback which people used to give me, and now I've accepted that in the first 5 minutes I appear as somebody who's arrogant, and then I ruin that reputation by cracking jokes here and there. That's the bad thing. But anyway, so we'll cover that. Major national events. So we have compiled an entire. It's difficult to right now put all the list there. The entire set of national events you should know about with reference to your B school interview, and a lot of topics are there. But from there we are streamlining the ones which you should be knowing about, in this course. Major global events. I'm a bigger fan of global events than of national events, because somehow I think if you are able to talk about the global, and there are one or two questions which remain with. When I was actually appearing for an interview, which was in 2005-6, yes. One of my friends, he was asked this question in I Am Lucknow interview: tell me about any news that does not involve India. This was a simple question about any news that does not involve India, and he couldn't think of any news that did not involve India. Even right now, maybe you try to think about something which you can prove that it has got at least not much to do with India. You think of Trump, US, it involves India. Europe, it involves India. So he couldn't think. He said the first thing which came to his mind was bird flu, because there was bird flu everywhere, and he got caught up there. So we have to be actually, and they gave him 3 minutes. The worst part was they gave him 3 minutes, that you relax, you have some water and spend 3 minutes. After 3 minutes he said, I'm so sorry, I can't recall. We have to be very, very conversant with these things. It has to go beyond the sessions. It has to go, you have to make this a part of your lifestyle there. And then we come to the B school sessions. See, it's a tall claim It's actually maybe an arrogant claim, but the point is, at the end of this module, you would have more or less completed your MBA. That is also one objective, that you do understand what you are getting into. I like people who do the research, who do the homework. So we will try here to ensure that you actually know what is marketing when you say marketing. So this session, marketing is everything. We'll talk about frameworks on marketing, the theoretical frameworks with various case studies, right? So I think we'll be done with marketing in 3 hours. I think marketing academically is worth just 3 hours. Rest everything should be practical on the streets. In the B school, should just kick you out of the campus and ask you to sell something, lemonade on the streets, and then you come back. Then more there will be, but theoretical part in 3 hours it will be done. Now, making of a startup nation. So we'll talk about the startups, uh, entrepreneurs, their problems, whether or not you want to have a startup or a startup, you should know about the practical problems, because a startup is a good area where you get from the ground up, you get to understand what happens in various functions of an organization. Those things are there. So we'll discuss about this with reference to, startup India, making the stories that have emerged from India, the problems that they have faced, ease of doing business. Is it actually, so India's rank is 100 right now, and which is not really good, but India has improved. So all those things we will discuss in the startup section. Again, we have one more on major national events. 3 more hours to spend on this, mostly talking about the topics which are trending around that time. Now, India and the world is about bilateral relations of India. India and China, we have a separation. Beyond that, of course, India has healthy or unhealthy relations with a lot of other countries. So we'll take up a few prominent countries and understand what's going on between India and those countries. That is one session of 3 hours. Budget basics, as you see, is on 30th of January. So you know when the budget is going to be presented, right? If you don't know, then I think you rather prepare well in the next 20 days or so. The union budget will be presented on the 1st of February. So we'll discuss on the basics of the budget, so that of course you can appreciate the budget. I will strongly recommend you watch the budget speech. It's boring, it's very boring, it's romanticized before and after, but during the course of it, it is extremely boring. But that is the only opportunity where you can actually complete the entire process, because the finance minister himself reads out the entire speech, which will be uploaded there and which you will not feel like reading. So just go online, put on a headphone and listen to the entire speech on the 1st of February. But before that, we'll understand the basics of the budget and what has been going on in the last 3 years with regards to budgetary promises and fulfillment. On the 31st of January, this is the session on the essay, WAT. How do you write a really impressive essay in a short time? How do you generate points for your essay, and how do you provide a structure? And there, of course, it has weightage in your final selection. That is something you have to we will do. And then, of course, on 2nd of February, we will analyze the entire budget, Union Budget 2018-19. Now, this is a very important event, because I think by the time you'll be appearing for an interview, so this will be this will still be trending whenever you are appearing. It's the second week of February or the last week of February, it will still be trending there. So you have to be very conversant with all the announcements made, whether they were good or not, what have the analysts said, what impact is supposed to have, how did the stock market react on the day, and why. Everything should be very clear. So we'll discuss that in 3 hours. Markets and IPOs is on stock market, right? And contrary to popular belief, stock trading is not finance. People generally say finance is stock trading, or because I trade I am good at finance, because I have never traded I am not good at finance. I think everybody should know about some basics of stock trading. How do you analyze it fundamentally and technically, along with certain case studies of IPOs which were big, which made it big, or which went bust. Why? Those aspects should be there. Okay, so because see, if this discussion comes up, you don't want to say, I'm not good at finance, therefore I don't want finance, therefore it's not finance. And they know it's not finance. They also know that you don't know what actually is finance. So those things are, so we'll do all these sessions there. Managing humans is on HR management, human resource management. Being human is important, but I think for you, managing humans is something you want to do. which is very very difficult, but you want to do. So we will have a theoretical session on human resource management, with again practical examples from the real world. Right, so I usually say when you ask what is HR, people end up saying, oh, giving incentives or penalizing hiring and firing, but HR is way beyond, much more than that. Of course, it includes hiring and firing. So we'll discuss all these theoretical frameworks there in this session, and this is one of the sessions which is heavy and which is something which will benefit you the most. I will be discussing the Economic Survey of India 2017-18. And the Economic Survey is a document which assesses the entire, all the events of the Indian economy in a very structured manner. So when we say 2017-18, it will be discussing all the developments in 17-18 along with the trends and everything. The problem is this is a huge document, and again you would say this is a very technical document, but my point is it's the best document that you should read. Humanly it's not possible. I think you will be able to easily convince yourself I can't read this. So I'll be analyzing all the best aspects of the economic survey. It will be I think a 400-500 page long. I like to read this, so I'll read this by 5th of February. It is released a day before the budget, so it will be released on 31st of January, uploaded everywhere, and read only by people like me who have to take sessions, I think. But the best document that comes out from the government of India, you just have to take it from me. And again, operations management, the basics. What is operation management, supply chain management, how do you effectively do that? You have to understand that what we call management right now actually began with operations management, and somehow this field has taken a back seat because there are more glamorized fields now. But once upon a time, management meant operations management. So when you are interested in management, you should know about operations management there. Trending current topics, which means January February topics. One logical, I won't say unfortunate thing is that most professors start preparing for the interview when you start preparing for the interview. They have also not followed this all the news properly. So many of them would be doing it. In fact, the last year many people said that the professors showed that they also have Knappily. So it's not uncommon right these days for them to have it. I'm not enticing you to read Knappily just for the sake of that, but what I'm saying is many of them would be asking questions from topics which are trending right now, because now they will also pay more attention to those topics. Think of the questions that can come up there. So we will discuss on 7th of February. We'll be discussing all these topics there, and then we have a session on valuation and investment banking. And I think one of the toughest questions to answer is, what is investment banking? What do investment bankers do? I don't remember getting any convincing answer from a B school aspirant, even those who say they want to be an investment banker. Even if you don't want to be, I think you should know what is investment banking because everybody would expect you, if you go to a B school, everybody expects you to be an investment banker until you explain them that it's either not possible or you are not interested. So we'll discuss about this thing in this session. So these are the 22 sessions to be taken. Overall, it's a 60-hour module. We'll be finishing this by 8th of February, because again after that you have other things to take care of, forms to be filled and other basic things to be done. And of course these sessions will be these will be live sessions, but this will be available to be viewed for the subscribers, and unfortunately I have to add for the paid subscribers in this case. The fees is 5,000 rupees for this program, and it was a tough call for all my knowledge of economics, supply, demand and everything. I just thought it makes sense to keep it at this level. So that is something I think you will be able to subscribe by. The payment gateway must be live by now. But again, let me add this. If you have a genuine reason that you want to join and you can't pay this, not the reasons that you will give into your interviews, but a genuine reason, you can mail. I think you can mail to me, Yashaswi@knappily.com, and we will look into this. All right, I'm just hoping I don't get 100 mails with this, but if there's a genuine reason, then of course we will look into this. Now the bigger aspect right now is mock interview. I am faced with a big problem, and the problem is even right now I have at least, you know, 30 requests for guidance on mock interviews. So so I am, my pipeline is packed, my schedule is usually packed. So in this case I'm using this, I have to say, prohibitive pricing here. There's no other way, because I think I can see you mail me, I'll guide you. If there is a reason, I'll call you anyway, but I don't want to take up the responsibility I cannot work on. So so if at all it is done, it will be for raising revenue for the company, and for that it is 15,000 rupees, which means for 15,000 rupees I will be conducting mock interviews, 3 mock interviews. I'll be guiding in your on your forms. I'll be calling you and following up with you, and you will also get these sessions, right? Because it's not. But again, you mail to me. I think you will get a reply from me with some attachment, something wherever possible. I will do that, but it's just time value of money. If I can say, use a term from finance, and I don't want to take up things I can't deliver on. Having said that, in these sessions, you I think you will get a lot of stuff for the interview. The interview has to be full of substance. That I think will come out there. Right. So I think with this we can end the session. We are right now. Anything else? I told you my. You can either mail to feedback@knappily.com, or you can mail to yashaswi@knappily.com. I'll usually reply within a couple of hours. There. Right, thank you. So you know what you are supposed to do. A lot of hard work, a lot of paperwork before you go for that interview. That not just you, but the panel will not will not forget. And I get a lot of these hindsight. I remember a lot of people who did really well, and I so in I should tell you, and again, not to glorify anything that I do. I'm really good at guiding people for mock interviews, and I'm also able to know who are the people who will convert all the calls, and that is a sincere, that person is a sincere person who has done the homework. So right now you you do the homework. I think we will keep meeting, we will have these sessions regularly, we will find out a way. And thank you, good night. Anything else you want to say?